In my personal opinion, this is the best retro Nike sportswear has ever done. So for those of you guys that don't know what this shoe is, this is the Nike Zoom GP, Gary Payton's first official signature sneaker with Nike, originally released back in 1999, designed by Eric Avar. If that name sounds familiar to you, it's because he has designed the upcoming Converse All-Star Pro BB, as well as many of Kobe Bryant's signature sneakers. So if you guys love his work, you'll probably like these as far as performance is concerned. Before Gary Payton actually wore this shoe, he was one of the main point guards, or one of the premier point guards, wearing a lot of Nike's flight models. One of them was these guys right here. These are part of the He Got Game Pack. These are awesome. Not quite like the original, but very close. It was not a letdown of a retro. They just kind of like missed the mark on one little detail, but otherwise these were a fine retro. And then one of the shoes that he's most known for wearing is this guy right here. This is the Nike Zoom Glove. And while it wasn't his official signature sneaker, it's basically the shoe that is tied to him most. Much like Uptempos and Scottie Pippen, it's the Zoom Glove and Gary Payton. Now, what I love about these guys right here is that they took kind of the bones of the Zoom Glove and then they fine-tuned it for Gary Payton's playing style. And that brings us to the lighter weight package in the Nike Zoom GP. These things are just awesome. Again, it's the first signature sneaker for Gary Payton, the first one that's actually named after him. Now, along with releasing in 1999, they originally released in 4 colorways. One of them was this guy right here, so this is an OG color. They also released in 3 others, one of which is hideous. It's black and volt with a little bit of red. I don't know what the hell they were thinking with that one, but apparently they were ahead of the time because that kind of is popular now. And I mean, yo, back in 1999, nobody liked those. They also had a reverse version of these where it was black based with a white stripe, and then my personal favorite was the navy and white. Those things were f***ing gorgeous. I hope those re-release. Probably not, but you know, wishful thinking. And as was popular back then, they actually did a takedown model of this shoe right here. It was for a little bit lesser of a price. These actually did not retail for a ton of money. It was 110 bucks for the tech specs that they actually have in there. That's amazing, especially today. And then there was a cheaper model that was like $75. They featured similar tech features, but they weren't quite exactly the same. They didn't have the little ratchet system and all that stuff, but they essentially looked the same. They functioned almost identically. So it gave you that look without the price and all that stuff, and obviously without the name. And those guys were called the Nike Air Believe Flight. Again, that's hella popular back then. Like, they used to like bite off their own stuff. Like, there was always a popular model, and then there was the lesser version of it, or the cheaper version, like the Air More Uptempo, the Air Much Uptempo. The 90s was an interesting time, man. I love that. And then not too long ago, we actually saw a shoe released from Nike Sportswear that was very similar to this guy. They took a lot of design elements and design cues from it, but it was called the Nike Sonic Flight, which is not to be mistaken with the original Nike Sonic Flight back in like the mid-90s. But that shoe was kind of like a hybrid and all that stuff of a bunch of different models, basically from Gary Payton's shoe to Kevin Garnett's shoe and all that kind of stuff. So a little bit similar. So if you see these and you're like, yo, I think I used to have something like that, it was most likely that shoe and not this shoe, because this is the first time that these have actually retroed ever. Now, Avar was inspired by very interesting things that don't really kind of like feel like they go together, but when you look at these, they obviously do. And that was track spikes, cycling shoes. The track spike is kind of like that low profile, real minimalist type of feel. These things sit very low to the ground, believe it or not, even though they kind of look kind of chunky. And they even have this spring plate that goes up into the forefoot right there, again, kind of giving you that propulsion feeling that a track spike would give you. Cycling shoes, very, you know, form-fitting, minimalist, again, just like the track spikes. And then on top of that, which I think all of us can see right off the top, and that's this guy right here, this Ratchet System. This is cool, man. There's been so many from the Adapt BB, okay, that's auto lacing, very cool, to the Fast Fit system from Jordan Brand, pulley system, again, very cool. But this came first. This is back in 1999. It's a ratchet system on your shoes. I get it. There's been BOA and all that stuff. I'm not talking about BOA. I'm talking about Nike. I'm talking about my memories and my nostalgia, and that is this guy right here. This thing was a trip when I was a kid, man. I could not believe that they put something so chunky on a basketball shoe while it's still, I mean, this is super light, even for a retro. Now, the reason why I say that this is Nike Sportswear's best retro that they've ever done is just because you can feel, like if you have these in hand, you can feel and just see that somebody actually tried with these things. Like, somebody must have fought to get whatever's in this shoe back in it, because it's like, they never do this, dude. Like, they never recreate something almost one for one, but they did with these guys, and it's just like, I'm just really surprised. They're not identical to the original, they're not perfect or anything like that, but they're so f***ing close. You've got to give them props. Now, the entire shoe is comprised of pretty much leather, and this leather is not the crappy stuff. Like, this is the really nice, you know, super soft, reminds me of Kobe Protro leather. A little bit thinner of a cut though, so you can see in there it's not like the thickest pieces or thickest panels. I don't remember what they were like in the originals as far as their thickness is concerned, but you know, it's the nice stuff. It's super soft, it moves well with the foot and all that. I have really no complaints with the overall build of the shoe. They look, again, damn near identical to the original, like the textures in there, everything. It's so soft and supple. I love it. However, the stripe right here, some of the crappiest leather that you could put on a shoe, is right there on these guys right here. It's also this little smooth piece that's underneath it and everything like that. This is all synthetic. It doesn't look that great. It's got a weird kind of finish to it as well. The originals I remember being pretty much matte, and this guy right here has some kind of like weird sheen to it. It's not exactly glossy, but it's not matte either. It's somewhere like right in the middle. But again, whoever was in charge of recreating the shoe, you could tell that they had to like cut costs there in order to get you other stuff here. Then they also added some things that weren't on the original. The piping right here is 3M, as well as the piping around the eye stay or the eyelet area, as well as what's on the little flap right there. So that's all reflective, even the white portions. I don't think it was white on the originals actually. I think it was black, but I don't remember them being reflective. So that's like a new feature. You've got that swoosh right there with the border green for the Seattle Supersonics. They really need to bring a team back there. I've been saying that for a long ass time, but it still holds true. They need a team back. And then you also have that same, you know, color green right there in the back, says Zoom Air, and that's exactly what these guys feature inside of the shoe, even on the retro. So the tech specs for these guys are nearly identical to the original. For all I know, they could be identical to the original. I just can't feel exactly what's in the forefoot. But in the heel right there, you can see the little Zoom Air icon. That thing is awesome. I love that era of logos for their Air Tech. They did it for Tuned Air and all that stuff, and I just love that they did it for Zoom Air and every other Air iteration of that time. And there is Zoom Air in the heel. It feels pretty good, not anything crazy, but you know, the longer that you wear them, you'll probably be able to feel it better. And in the forefoot, there is Zoom Air. I just can't tell like if it's the original articulated Zoom or if it's just like a regular kind of like new Zoom Air unit that you would see in like an Air Jordan 13 or an Air Jordan 14. I'm not really sure, but anyways, it was a chambered unit and it fit within these little flex scoops right there. That way you can have all of the cushion with all of the mobility. And again, these guys were very low profile, even for today's standards. So it was just like an awesome feature to have cushion, low profile feel, all in one. Something that I'm very impressed with is the fact that there's carbon fiber on the shoe. Like, that might sound stupid, but as somebody that loves the Jumpman Pro, the retro of it is just like a bastardized version. This guy right here though, it's got the stuff that like the original had. I'm like blown away. They even put in the little details like the 5 dots. This is for the Alpha Project. The dots are a little bit different. These are plastic. I think the originals might have been either 3M or like a shinier silver. And then we have the Flight logo returning right there. This is a I would say like the later 90s Flight logo. There's been many different Flight logos, but this is one of the cool ones in my opinion. And then for anybody curious, Monkey Paw is in the shoe just like it was in the Nike Zoom Glove Retro. And speaking of the glove, again, I love how Eric Avar took the kind of like the bones or the initial like rough draft from these guys right here and moved it over to the Zoom GP, so you could see the sculpting and all that stuff is very similar. It's not identical, but it's similar, so you could see where it kind of has evolved into a slimmer form and all that stuff. You can see where the heels kind of like mimic the same shape. And again, side by side, you could just kind of see how this is a little bit more refined than these guys. These are definitely way more bulky than something like this. Now, as far as fit is concerned, I went true to size. They fit me perfectly, so that's what I would recommend for everybody. And I just think that these things fit awesome. They look great on feet as well. Now, a lot of people might be wondering, are these things still hoopable? Yeah, they are. These things are awesome. I see a lot of complaints on other places of the internet, and you know, people will complain. For me, I think that these things are awesome. They again still feature the 4-foot Zoom Air. I just don't know what kind, so you still have that low profile feel with a little bit of cushion underneath your feet, which is great for speedy little guards, just like it was back then, as it is now. Heel Zoom Air is in place as well, so you got cushion in the back. Again, originally priced at $110. Crazy, now priced at $160, also crazy, that kind of sucks. The Outrigger section right here is very interesting. It's not super wide, but it's extra stable because they actually cup the phylon what's within there. A little bit of the phylon is exposed, so it allows the phylon to kind of move and compress and all that stuff, so it's not super firm underneath, but you can definitely feel this little rubber wrap underneath your foot and all that stuff. So again, you're not feeling anything compress too much to where it's going to fold over upon super hard cuts or lateral moves and stuff like that. For Gary Payton, he was on the ball as far as defense is concerned, so he's constantly moving, shifting left and right and all that stuff, sliding and gliding with his, opponent. And so this kind of shoe right here is like really great for that. And then the traction on these things is awesome, dude. Like herringbone, you can't go wrong with, especially like real big, thick, aggressive herringbone like this. It's also great for outdoors. It'll last you a little bit longer because again, this is like 90s style stuff. So a firmer rubber is used. Great inside as well. And then again, for speedy guards, you got this area wrapping up the shoe. I know that this is like a new thing that like they try to like promote as like, oh yeah, this is awesome. It wraps around the shoe, gives you great traction. They've been doing this, dude. Like it's nothing new. We've seen this before and it's awesome every time they do it. Now, two of the things that I personally find to be like my favorite features are the fit and the mobility. These things are essentially a low top, even though they're like got that asymmetrical cut, very similar to an Air Jordan 13 and an Air Jordan 14. I love low cuts. It's something that Eric Avar has been designing for years. It's not a Kobe thing. He's been doing this. Now, like I was saying, my other favorite feature is the overall fit. They do fit true to size, but what I really love about these things is that you can customize that tightness of the lockdown. So inside of the lacing system, we have an internal lacing structure. This is supposed to make it so that when you tighten the shoe up, it gets the upper closer to your foot than a traditional like poked hole eyelet panel and all that stuff, which is a little bit true. I like the way that it fits, especially once it is laced up really tightly. That on its own was very good. Inside you have a nice little neoprene kind of like sock liner or sleeve, and you can actually like put your finger all the way in there. That little booty inside goes all the way to the toe. It feels awesome. It's a partial sleeve, so it ends right here. It does not go all the way to the rear. And then to top everything off, when you are ready to really fasten yourself in there, you click that guy in. That's super cool. And then when you're ready to customize the fit, all you do is click this guy right here. And then to loosen it up, all you gotta do is push this little guy right there and it just automatically kind of ejects and you can pull it out and all that stuff. But you put that in there, make sure that you get it one at a time. And then as soon as everything's in, you're locked in and ready to go. Just be careful because this little thing right there will dig into your ankles. So I do not recommend wearing these with no-show socks. Make sure that you got quarter cuts or crews or whatever it is. Just no-shows. That thing right there will cut the out of your ankle, no questions asked. And that pretty much takes care of it for these guys. I think that this is, again, a fantastic retro. I wish that Nike Sportswear would do this every time. The Nike Air Up needs a brand new version. Y'all f***ed up big time on those. I'm telling you. Redo those, do it like you did with these, put some love into it. I would totally buy them again because the last version was crap. Now, the original release date for these guys was scheduled for 4/20. Unfortunately, for those of us in the US, that release date was pushed back all the way till June. We won't be seeing these until I think June 15th or 16th, but they did release overseas on 4/20, so that's where I got my pair. I grabbed mine from Sneakers and stuff. However, there is a brand new colorway that kind of pays tribute to the Seattle Supersonics. Those are going to be releasing before these guys, which I think is unfortunate. I think that you should always lead off a retro and an original colorway, but that's neither here nor there. However, that shoe looks very nice. Like the materials on those things look super buttery. Again, retail price on these things is 160 bucks. Very expensive for a retro, but for what they did, which is almost everything, I think that most people, especially if you're a big fan of these, are going to be happy. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for all your support, and until next time, guys, have a good one. 5 what?
Minutes.
For what?
It's gonna shut off.
I've been talking for 30 minutes?
Yes.
God damn. So hopefully she got no time to speak.